Okay, so I want to make an in-depth Whirlwind Barbarian guide. I'm going to go over Whirlwind Snapshot mechanics with shouts and legendaries. I'm going to go over gear and what stats have in that gear, Paragon tree, skill tree, an axe or sword, and what expertise to use. So I'll go over this the gear first, and just to clarify, this is for a speed farm Whirlwind Barbarian guide. This is the build to play if you want to go for a level 100 or just farm the most amount of rares or legendaries an hour. So this build pretty much does like keys above 15 to 20 above its level, so I can do about like 60 to 65 nightmare keys, but it's really strong for stuff like champion demise farming. We just want to farm a bunch of EXP or legendaries. So the gear first. So the helm, you want disobedience legendary. It's extremely strong, gives you a ton of armor, the best defensive legendary in the game. And the stats here are what you want: armor, max life, cooldown reduction, strength. Cooldown reduction, most important stat here. Chest. You want the unique chest, of course. This gives you really good uptime for your shouts. If you don't have this, just use a rare chest. But this is a pretty common chest. I found over 10 of these on my way to level 100, even more than that. Yeah, this is really strong. If you have multiple of these chests, use the one with the highest lucky hit chance for cooldown reduction. Gloves. You see, I'm not actually using gores. I think gores are actually really bad for speed farming. I think it might be good for like high-end nightmare farming, but for speed farming, it's just not that good. The thing about rare gloves, you get a lot of crit chance from them, and you still get +4 ranks of Whirlwind, and you still get lucky hit chance. So yeah, you want crit, lucky hit, Whirlwind. Lucky hit's really important, as it will proc Vuln more, and most importantly, it'll proc the cooldown reduction from your chest more. So you do get lucky hit here. Pants, you want temerity for the barrier. If you don't have these, just use rare pants with the legendary barrier aspect that procs when you verse an elite. Boots, you want relentless berserker. This is for higher berserker uptime. Now, I'm only doing this because I have a lot of move speed. You'll see currently I have 160% move speed. This means I am currently move speed cap with my shouts up. So if you weren't move speed cap with your shouts up, you would want to use the movement speed legendary here. That gives you like 25% movement speed when you become unstoppable. But yeah, because I do not need that, I use Relentless Berserker for high berserker uptime. And I have this much move speed because of my amulet and my boots. And yeah, for boots, you want double move speed, with the flat move speed being the most important role. So you see I have 25% here, really good. And then Fury cost reduction. The last side doesn't matter. I have dodge chance, but this can be whatever. Just try to get double move speed and Fury cost reduction. Something to note: Fury cost reduction is extremely common to roll on this, and move speed is extremely rare to roll on this. So only try to roll boots that have move speed already on them, and then you can just easily roll Fury cost reduction. For weapon, every weapon you want to look exactly like this: vuln damage, critical strike damage, damage to close enemies, and strength. Right? You see, this weapon is pretty much perfect. It has almost every stat is perfect in max roll. So yeah, you want every single weapon to look like this, but the exception is strength. Strength can also be all stats, which is good because it can help you meet your requirements on your Paragon board. So yeah, one weapon being all stats is pretty ideal. Outside of that, the damage to close enemies can be damage to slowed, damage to bleeding, damage while berserking. It could be like any of those. Damage versus count controlled. Damage to close is just the best because this is the only stat that also works on bosses, where the other stats don't work on bosses unless you fully stagger them, which you don't do with this build really. Yeah, we have Luminous Rage here, then we have Expected here, then we have the Barrier Legendary here, which is extremely strong with the Temerity Pants. If you don't have Temerity Pants, or you want to use the Barrier Legendary, or you can use a different offensive legendary here. So your choice is up to you. And then we have Whirlwind here for the critical strike chance. You see, in this weapon, we have all stats. Like I said, this is to help meet the stat requirements on our Paragon board. And yeah, that's it. For the rings, you want Bold Chieftain and Dark Inferior, of course, with the stats being crit strike chance, critical strike damage, and vuln damage. The last stat can be whatever you want. I have max life here, and I have resource gen here. Both resource gen and max life are pretty rare to get. If I had to choose, I would do double resource gen just for speed farming. I think that is most ideal, but max life is nice if you're trying to go for higher nightmare keys. So yeah, just get what you can because these are pretty rare to get. I didn't get this resource gen one until like level 98, and I didn't get this max life one until like level 90. It's hard to get these like perfect GG rings. A quad damage ring are pretty common from what I found, so like close damage instead of max life. But yeah, You just really want crit strike chance, crit strike damage, and bone damage. Now for amulet, you want Edgemaster here, and you want Fury cost reduction, cooldown reduction, damage reduction from close enemies, and movement speed. Damage reduction from close enemies can be anything, it doesn't have to be damage reduction. Most important is Fury cost reduction and cooldown reduction, with movement speed being the third most important stat. You can run with a 3 prop amulet, and that's completely fine. Just get 3 stats. Damage reduction, not important, but it is really strong if you are going for high nightmare keys, which is why I went with this amulet. For the gems, it's just, damage reduction while fortified, critical strike damage to vulnerability enemies, and skull gems, of course. Pretty standard gems. So I'm going to talk about next is axe or sword. Axe is better, hands down currently, because maybe Whirlwind is bugged, but Whirlwind does not work with attack speed. So this is important because axe has way higher base damage than a sword because it's 0.9 attacks per second, while a sword has 1 attacks per second. And since attack speed does not matter, the base damage on the axe makes the damage way higher than a sword, as these weapons are balanced based off their attack speed. So yeah, axe is better than sword, but this is only true if you have an axe that's equal power to your sword. This is why I'm using a sword. As you see, my sword is 815 power level, right? Extremely high. So I never found an axe that was equal to my sword, therefore I kept using sword. But yeah, if I found an 815 iron power axe with these exact same stats, then I would use an axe. Expertise, you want axe expertise always. If you're using an axe, then you can go sword, or you can go polearm. Polearm expertise is good because the lucky hit chance is nice. But yeah, it's up to you. You can play around with either. Sword's just nice damage, and polearm will give you slightly better shout uptime. Yeah, make sure you always have axe, either by welding the axe or using axe expertise, as it's a 15% damage multiplier, really strong. Next to go over is the skill tree. So the skill tree is pretty simple. I won't go much over here, but to go over the important pieces here is, of course, you want pressure points. Just more vulnerable time. You go Furious Whirlwind. Violent Whirlwind, in my opinion, is better if you're pushing high keys. This is because the bleed damage isn't actually really that strong, but Violent Whirlwind only works when you challenge for 2 seconds. So if you're speed farming, you're not really challenged for more than 3 or 4 seconds, so you don't get that much mileage out of Violent Whirlwind. But yeah, if you are challenged for long, like in high keys, I think Violent Whirlwind is better for damage. Outside of that, yeah, just use Furious Whirlwind. Next, like I said, only put on 1. Of course, you go triple shouts. You want 3 points of boom and voice, and 3 points on regular is important if you're using the barrier legendary. If you don't have the barrier legendary, then boom and voice is not as important. I mean, regular is not as important. But yeah, this is how you maintain barrier with temerity. No mercy is, of course, really, really nice at hamstring. A lot of crit strike chance. This is also really nice. It's more damage reduction. This defensive stance is only needed if you're pushing like higher keys. If you want more damage, you take these 3 points out and put into counter offensive for even more damage. This depends on what type of content you're doing. But yeah, feel free to switch around these points for more damage. Same with Ray Leader, feel free to switch these points out for more damage, like slaying strikes, or counter offensive and defensive stance, right? But yeah, this just depends on what type of content you are doing. But as like a stock standard cookie cutter build, this is what I went with. Of course, I'll have this link in the description below, so you don't have to like copy from this video. Next is the Paragon board. I'll try to go over this really quick. This first board, we're using Territorial, just damage reduction, and it's really high damage, despite only being 39 dex boards. This is like the most efficient glyph to use in the spot. Even more so than stuff like Irie, which is, this is a strength board. This dex one is just extremely strong and is actually better than any strength glyph you can get here. Next board is the Orbinger, a legendary node. This is by far the best barbarian legendary node. This is how you cap fortify, and you can also cap fortify through Might Warcry. So once again, this depends on the content you're doing. If you're speed farming, stuff like Champion's Demise, then go for Power Warcry. But if you're pushing high keys, you really want more consistent fortify, and therefore you do want Might Warcry. But yeah, this node is high sustained fortify. It's extremely, extremely strong. This is why I go for this board first. And we're using the Wrathcliff here. Wrathcliff extremely strong. With the Wrathcliff, I'm able to sustain my rage on packs without shouts up because of this one glyph. So you have really strong glyph, and it also gets restrict damage, which is really nice. So to note real quick is that these fortified nodes aren't actually efficient, but the reason why I went them is because you also get 10% fortified generation, so I thought that was pretty worth. But yeah, these are like the least important nodes on this entire tree, but I think they are really strong just for the fortified generation as well. And something to note, this tree is completely min-maxed for level 100. I don't have a single point wasted here, as you'll see. Yeah, next board is Decimator. Legendary node's alright, it's not too bad. The only reason we get it is because it's only got a 3-point pickup. Otherwise, I might not get it. But yeah, this board is extremely strong, not for the legendary node, but the rare nodes. So this is by far the best, tree for the rare nodes and magic nodes. We take every single magic and rare node on this board outside these dex ones and outside these life ones. The reason why is vuln damage. You get a lot of vuln damage on this tree. You see we get about, what is this, 35% here, and we get about 20% here, and you get another 35% here. So yeah, we get 90% vuln damage from this one Paragon board. It's an extremely strong Paragon board. And outside of that, you just get some nice flat damage nodes, like 5% unconditional damage, so it's just really nice. Stuff like that. But yeah, this board is extremely strong because of these rare nodes. And we're taking the Undaunted glyph here. This can also be placed with the Imbiber glyph for a little bit more consistent damage, but I like the damage reduction here. Not a very important glyph at all. And like you could also just not take like these nodes too. But yeah, next tree is the Exploit glyph. And this is the Carnage Paragon board. Exploit, probably the best glyph in the game. Guaranteed vuln on every single first time you hit an enemy is extremely strong. This makes your damage very high and consistent for trash packs. And not much to talk about this board. This Berserk duration node is nice. It does help a little bit. And yeah, that's it. Next board. We of course have the Martial glyph. Martial glyph is also extremely important, and you do take this glyph earlier if you aren't level 100. But this is the most optimal place to put the Martial glyph if you are level 100. So yeah, that's why it's the last board. Otherwise, you would take this earlier. So to note is these elite glyphs. Not glyphs, elite nodes. The move speed after becoming elite is not important for me because I'm already capped move speed. But if you aren't capped move speed, then these move speed and nodes are pretty nice. But yeah, besides that, they are really efficient damage nodes. You get a ton of damage here. Damage for elites also works on the bosses, by the way. So yeah, that's pretty much the Paragon board. Something to note, as you see the stat requirements, I have 521 out of 520 willpower, and I have 532 dexterity out of 530 dexterity. This is why I said getting all stats on your weapons is important. If I didn't have all stats here, I would not be meeting those 3 rare node requirements, and that's quite a bit of stats loss. As you see, it's about 100 armor here, 10% fizz damage here, and 16% elite damage here. So yeah, this is why I like having all stats on one weapon. It's not a big deal if you don't have all stats on one weapon. You lose those nodes, and you have a chance instead. It's fine, but yeah. Another thing to note from the Paragon tree, there are different ways to path here to get more stats. So what do I mean by that? If you need a little bit more willpower, you can path up here to get 10 willpower instead of down here, because this path only gets 5 willpower and 5 dexterity. So yeah. You can also at the start, you can get this willpower node instead of the strength node. This is just important to know if you're missing, a very slight amount of stats for these rare nodes. So yeah, that's it for the Paragon board. Once again, I have like a level 82, level 90, and level 100 version down below. And you'll see I'm not using the bleed one, which is, let me see if I can find it. I didn't even bother leveling up, and I'll explain why. So yeah, this bleed one, disembowel, I think it's actually just trash. I do not like it. The reason why, bleed damage is like 20% of your damage on this build is actually really bad. So the bonus here for the damage is completely wasted. And then the 10% chance for discount with non-ultimate skills, this is also really mediocre. Essentially, you can look at this, every kill is 0.1 second cooldown reduction. I say this is bad because, when you think about a regular pack, 10 mobs, you're only gonna 1 second off your shouts. I do not like this glyph at all. I saw like other people using it, but I think once you're fully decked out in gear, right, with proper cooldown reduction rolls and a max rolled unique chest, then it's just not needed. Like I said, I personally think it's pretty bad, but it probably is useful and good if you did not have unique chests and if you did not have proper cooldown reduction rolls on your helmet and amulet. But yeah, I think once you're fully decked out in the best gear, then I would not use this rare glyph. That's just my opinion on it. I think people overestimate bleed damage. Bleed damage is, like I said, it's only like 20 or 25% of your total damage. It's actually not that much. So the bleed damage on the bonus is pretty wasted here. So the last thing I want to go over is Whirlwind Snapshot mechanics. This is probably the most important part of the video. So a lot of people just do not know how Whirlwind actually works. So I would say you probably know how Whirlwind snapshots, right? It'll snapshot all your current buffs and damage until you end it. But what a lot of people don't know is how you cancel Whirlwind during a Whirlwind. So what do I mean by this? So to show an example, I'll get some Fury here. So Whirlwind will not cancel if you press a shout during Whirlwind. So what do I mean by this? So if I'm Whirlwind, if I press a shout, my snapshot stay and it does not cancel. To show us a little bit more clear, let me just respec out of this real quick. So yeah, if you shout during Whirlwind, your Whirlwind does not cancel. But if you press a shout that's on cooldown during Whirlwind, your Whirlwind does cancel. It may not look like it, but it does. So here, so if I Whirlwind and I press my shout that's on cooldown, look at my buff right here, the crit strike chance, press a shout on cooldown, it resets. Despite my Whirlwind seamlessly not canceling. So yeah, this is a very important Whirlwind mechanic to know. If you press your shout and it's on cooldown, your Whirlwind resets. You lose all your current snapshots. This is a very important mechanic. But if you press a shout that's not on cooldown, your Whirlwind does not reset. So essentially how you want to play it, right, is you can Whirlwind forever. Just be careful when you press your shouts. You can't be spamming them like this, or else you're going to keep resetting your snapshot. But when your shout comes off cooldown, press it once while Whirlwind and you're fine. You won't cancel the snapshot. So yeah, I hope I explained that well enough. This is just extremely important to know for Whirlwind, because if you're canceling your snapshots, your damage is going to be really, really bad. And yeah, that's about it. If you have any questions, leave a comment below.